For all the latest reviews, interviews and everything entertainment in Tamil, Kannada, Malayalam and Telugu, subscribe to Film Companion South now.
Hello and welcome to Film Companion South. In 2020, Amazon Prime Video gave us Putham Pudhu Kaalai. Now we have Putham Pudhu Kaalai Vidiyaadhaa, which is a kind of sequel to the earlier film. We have 5 films set during the lockdown and there is a sense of yearning or maybe even despair in the title. In the first film, it was just Putham Pudhu Kaalai, which means bright new dawn. It's very positive, right? This one's called Putham Pudhu Kaalai Vidiyaadhaa. Will this new dawn ever rise again? And perhaps that sense of despair is brought about by the fact that we are deep into another pandemic and there are no signs of when things are going to get all right. We have forgotten what life was like earlier. We have forgotten what roads were like earlier, which is what we see in the first film directed by Balaji Mohan. It's called Mugakavasa Muttam. Now, the protagonists are a pair of traffic cops played by TJ Arunachalam and Gauri Kishan. Their job is to make sure that nobody crosses the barriers and goes through to zones where they're not supposed to go to unless it is an emergency. Now it's very clear that the TJ character has a thing for the Gauri character, and by the end there is a small twist where she ends up doing something that you think he's going to end up doing. The semi-cute subplot that starts somewhere in the middle, that's also about a pair of lovers. That's not bad either, but all these remain at an idea level. They feel like basic concepts that need to have been developed a lot more. The writing, the plotting is too loose. We get, for instance, the visual of all these cops, a bunch of traffic cops preparing a PSA video, and the film itself sometimes feels like a PSA. By the end, that romantic track that started midway through the film, it feels almost inconsequential. And yes, we get the idea that maybe the idea was to make a light and fun film, but we know the voice of Balaji Mohan. We know his light and fun voice, and that just does not come through. After this, we get the best film of the anthology directed by Halita Shamim, but I'm going to keep that discussion for the end. For now, I'm going to talk about film number 3. This is directed by Madhumita. It stars Joju George and Nadia Moidu, and it is called Mauname Parvayal. Now, the film reminded me of 2 songs. One is, of course, the lovely P.P. Srinivas song from Kodi Malar, which goes Mauname Parvayal Oru Paattu Paada Vendum. That is where this film gets its title from. Now, if you know Kodi Malar, you'll know that the heroine Vijay Kumari was a speech impaired character, and here the difference is that Nadia Moidu she can talk, but she has chosen to remain mute. After a fight with her husband, she just has stopped talking to him. Now, Nadia is a musician and she plays the flute, and this is where the second song that I was talking about came to mind. It is from Abhiman and it is Pia Bina, of course, and that song actually says that the music has gone out from my life after my loved one has gone away. Now, with this flute, Madhumita adds a layer of the Krishna myth to the story. The Nadia character is called Yashoda, the Joju George character is called Murali Krishnan, and at first it's great fun to see these 2 characters mute fighting. You know, those little gestures that couples have, you know, that little said, unsaid things, especially when Joju George is trying to get a task accomplished and Nadia does it like this and shows him how easy it is. But after a while, we realize that there is simply not enough content to keep a 30-minute silent film going. The film, I say silent because though there's music, there is no dialogue. So you get this feeling that maybe this Joju George character at least could have spoken even though his wife is remaining silent. Maybe that way we would have gotten to know a little more about this couple. I don't know. Mauname Parvayal is certainly well made and it's certainly watchable. But after a point, you get the feeling that the decision to keep that movie dialogue free tips it into cute category. It gets sugary sweet after a point. Then we have Surya Krishna's The Mask. Like the Balaji Mohan film, this too plays like a love story that's also a bit of a PSA. The lead character is played by Sanant. He wants to talk about his love life to his parents, but he simply does not have the guts. The film's big conceit is to bring in a completely unrelated character, that is Sanant's old school friend, one he has not met for several years, into this story and make him impact Sanant's character. Now, this character is played by Dilip Subarayan and he does not work at all. It's not about Dilip Subarayan's performance, it's about the conception of the character itself. It is so surreal and so out there that it just doesn't fit. Another thing that doesn't fit is Sanan's frequent decision to stop talking and break the fourth wall and turn to us and start talking to the audience. The big idea goes back to the title, The Mask. It says that society doesn't see us, but the masks that we wear and choose to present ourselves with. We need to tear these masks off if we really want to lead the lives that we want to lead. That's the story. But the writing is unconvincing and the ending is completely underwhelming. Then we have Richard Anthony's Niril Tarum Idam, where Aishwarya Lakshmi plays a Bangalore-based career woman who gets news about a tragedy from home. Now, this woman does not have a good relationship with her family. And home is Pondicherry, so she has to travel there. And there she faces the demons that she's been carrying inside her. Now, these demons are represented by dancers who do a mix of modern dance and mime. This conceit did not go down very well with me. It just looked a little odd. The story too is a tad simplistic. It's about letting go and learning to embrace the new, whether it is a new place or a new relationship. And I really think we should stop using dogs to cure human emotions, but the film kind of worked for me. For one, Aishwarya Lakshmi is lovely, her performance is lovely, and the film's craft is absolutely fantastic. And two, there are lovely writing touches, like the fact that our best friend, the person we grew up with, might one day leave us. And what do we do in that situation? The way the scene plays out is just beautiful. Another thing that I really loved, and this is where you know that the writing is very individualistic and written by somebody who's really thinking about things, is a scene where we learn that we all remember things very differently because our minds are different. So our individual memory of things that happened are different, even though collectively they may be a cliche, a lump of a thing that happened, but the way each of our minds registered that collective event is different. I really like that touch too. These textured moments and lines go a long way towards elevating a generic story. And finally, we come to Halita Shamim's wonderful film called Loners. Now, an early shot has a wedding that is taking place on a Zoom screen. So obviously on the computer screen, there's a whole bunch of people, a lot of people. And then we get another event that takes place on a Zoom screen. Let's call it a book club kind of event. So there are fewer people on screen. So there is this idea that the number of people we meet is shrinking. And finally, we are just left with two people, the characters played by Lijomo Jose and Arjun Das. Like in Madhumita's film, which reminded me of two songs, here too there is a recall. There is a recall of the legend of Nallathangal, the princess who faced a lot of poverty and finally had to kill herself and her children. Here the Lijomo Jose character is called Nallathangal, and the poverty she faces obviously is not actual poverty but the poverty of companionship. The first shot, the very first shot of the building is a symmetric composition of a very large apartment complex. And yet, when we see Nallathangal, she is all alone. Some of you may ask why, and Halita doesn't explain a lot of things in this movie, but I'll tell you the reason why. Because loneliness cannot be driven away just by the presence of people, just by the mere presence of people. You need like-minded people. You need people who get you. You need people who understand you. You need people who think like you. You need people you have things in common with. Now, Loners is Halita's best film. And I also have to mention the cinematographer Raghav Aditya and the editor Raymond Eric Craster. Now, a lot of this film, Loners, is about the Lijo character and the Arjun Das character just talking. And a lot of the time when a film is just about two people talking, a filmmaker will try to make it cute, or they will try to make it about one big thing. Here, it is about several small things. It is about the micro gestures, like the aloe vera plant that is placed at a height that could harm a dog. Conversations are so beautifully written and they're delivered in such a wonderfully offhand manner that you feel that along with Halita, you are getting into the souls of these two characters, that is Lijo and Arjun, almost invisibly. Both actors are very good, but Lijomo Jose is something else. She's amazingly, astonishingly amazing. She plays nothing scenes as though they carry the secrets of the universe. Now consider this line. I'm beginning with a quote. We are not living anymore, we are just enacting our lives. It's something like that. The line is something like that. Now this sounds very heavy, right? You could almost write a self-help book on it, but on screen it sounds so light, like air. It comes across as so casual, so natural sounding. Nothing sounds artificial in this film. Now another thing that Halita does superbly is to capture the cadences of a certain kind of urban life. Now usually when such characters are presented on our screen, we get them to be cute or generic or artificial. Or worse, they feel fake. Here you feel like you actually know some of these characters. He could be the wine-loving IT guy who lives next door, or he could be this loner who lives 3 doors away. What I'm trying to say is that even if you don't know these exact characters, you certainly know the types. I think the film will speak most to a certain kind of person, a person who identifies the name Stargazer on a computer screen. It's the nickname of a person, and it will immediately attract you when somebody calls themselves a skygazer or a stargazer. And I think this movie will also speak to people who are very, very expressive about what they feel, and who are not just generic about, okay, how are you feeling? I'm feeling sad. No, this is about people who will give you a 10-page dissertation about why exactly their sadness is, what color the sadness is, what tone, what texture, what flavor the sadness is. So Balaji Mohan and Arjun, they talk about vibes, and they talk about energies, and they talk about toxic positivity. They talk about vulnerability. They talk about keeping things locked up, and you wonder, is Halita leading us and these characters towards a romance? Is that where she's going? But she herself is not revealing anything at any point. She keeps you guessing, and she steers you and these characters so gently towards the big climax that it just hits you like a rock. I actually wept. The camera keeps drifting with the characters. They are not boxed into careful compositions. There's the looseness to the frames that mirrors the looseness of the conversations. And the editing is outstanding. When it's just about two people, you have to know how much I want to stay on this person, how much I want to stay on this person, how much little microseconds do I have to give to this person, just so that, you get that little feeling that she's feeling. The editing is just outstanding. Raymond Eric Crusher does a ridiculously good job in the transitions between the Arjun character and the Balaji Mohan character. I've always liked Halita's films to an extent, and I've always felt that she has a very distinct voice. But with Loners, I think she really breaks through to the next level, and I think this film signifies the arrival of a major writer-director. So that's it about Putham Pudhu Kaalai Vidiyaadhaa. If you like this video, do subscribe to Film Companion South, and see you soon at the movies. And I hope you like my game chair. I didn't buy it myself. Somebody else made me buy it. I feel a little silly sitting in it, but that's how life is.